Yeah, welcome back, friends, once again. And this time we will discuss the concept of hermeneutics, which is a very interesting concept and which is very integral to our understanding of later theoretical developments connected with phenomenology, reader response criticism, and reception theory. You know, hermeneutics originated in the analysis and interpretation of the text of the Bible. So it was originally used for the purpose of the interpretation of the Bible, but later it came to be widely used in the interpretation and analysis of secular texts as well by the turn of the 19th century, because the German high criticism and romanticism had a conflation at this juncture in the 19th century, which resulted in analyzing theological texts in a different way as to how people read the Bible and others, religious texts, and how they made meaning out of it. And thus there was a turnaround by the 19th century. Actually, the textual concern resulted in the formulation of a very interesting concept called the hermeneutic circle, which refers to an apparent paradox in which we cannot understand the whole of a text without having some knowledge of the parts of the text, but that the understanding of the parts presupposes an understanding of the whole of the text. This paradoxical situation is referred to as the hermeneutic circle, which was coined by the German Friedrich Schleiermacher. In fact, it was Schleiermacher who introduced the concept of the hermeneutic circle. In the 20th century, the German philosophers Martin Heidegger and his disciple Hans Georg Gadamer, transformed hermeneutics from a problem of knowing that is essentially connected with epistemology or the study of knowledge into a problem of being, that is existence or ontology. In fact, being or ontology. In other words, it could be said that understanding became not simply a question of knowing something, but it's also defined by the human way of being in the world. Remember, being in the world, which Heidegger calls Dasein. Dasein is the term which he employs to refer to being in the world, which is, ontological in a sense. The immediate consequence of this transformation is to look upon understanding as necessarily rooted in certain preconceptions and rooted in time, which is otherwise known as history. Reading cannot be thought of as a very innocent process. When we encounter a text from the past or a classical text, we unite our historically shaped preconceptions with the historically shaped, preconception of the text that we are encountering. So, human mind, particularly the mind of the reader who encounters a classical text, cannot be thought of as a tabula rasa or as a clean slate upon which nothing has been written, but rather we bring to the reading process our preconceptions or prejudices and our considerations of time and history. So out of this fusion of horizons of history and preconceptions, in fact, according to these thinkers, emerges what is called a horizons of understanding, a concept which is very integral to the study of hermeneutics. And in phenomenology, again, we will come across the horizons of expectations as well. We can, in other words, say that the process of interpretation that grows out of this kind of an understanding can never be thought of as an understanding of objective truth, which can be assigned to science, but which can now be assigned to literary studies. A classical text has no final meaning, but only a history of its interpretations, according to the arguments in the hermeneutics. In this sense, the meaning of a text is the history of its criticism, and its meanings can be discovered only by the reader in interaction with the text. This is the essential hermeneutic stance propounded by the German philosophers Heidegger and his disciple Hans-Georg Gadamer. But this position has been severely contested by the American hermeneutic critic E.D. Hirsch, who sees it as an example of, this kind of an argument, German argument, as an example of historical relativism. In his celebrated work, Validity in Interpretation, which appeared in 1967, Hirsch argues for a distinction between the meaning of a text and its significance. So there must be a distinction between the meaning of a text and the significance of a text. For Hirsch, the meaning of a text resides in the intention of the author, while the significance represents the meanings acquired in the course of its history. So these two things are to be distinguished. Another important figure who is connected with hermeneutics is the French philosopher Paul Ricoeur. Paul Ricoeur, he makes a distinction between what he calls the hermeneutics of suspicion and the hermeneutics of trust. Hermeneutics of suspicion and the hermeneutics of trust. And he says hermeneutics of suspicion could be found in the thinking of such modern writers or philosophers like Friedrich Nietzsche, Sigmund Freud, Jacques Lacan, or even Jacques Derrida. And he doesn't believe that the hermeneutics of suspicion is something that is warranted or positive in the reading process of text. Rather, he recommends one to be open without any kind of suspicion or preconceived notions to approach a text while reading. And Ricoeur, he says that hermeneutics should operate from a posture of trust, not suspicion. That's all about the hermeneutics, and hermeneutics circle also talking about the later developments of hermeneutics. Thank you very much.